Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of this video series, turning your 4-bar loop into a finished song. I'm walking you through my production process of an artist that I'm developing, Gigi Rowe. The song's titled Give It Away. And so in this video, we're going to talk about some drum programming stuff and some layering, also some cool tips and tricks with your arrangement. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up to date with this video series. And if you click the link below in the description box, I'm going to share with you some effects that I'm using in this Ableton Live set and in this song absolutely for free. So click that link and go ahead and download that set that includes some of the effects I'm going to be sharing with you. So go ahead and enjoy the video. Now, my production process may vary from time to time, but usually I'll stay in the session view until I've gotten an overall vibe or an idea, usually the chorus of the song, or if I'm working on a dance record or doing a remix, it's usually the drop. What's the overall groove and the central point of this song or the record? And so once I've gotten that in my session view, then I go ahead and record that into my arrangement view, or just drag some of those elements into the arrangement view, and I'll flush out the arrangement. So let's go ahead and do that. We've got the main synth and we've got the lead vocal already in place. So let's put them into the arrangement view. So you can transfer things over to the arrangement view by recording using the global record button. And this will record any clips that are currently being triggered in the session view, and that'll send exactly what you're hearing over to the arrangement view. Or you can also just individually click or select multiple clips and just hold down the tab button on your keyboard and drag that over into the arrangement view, like so. Now, once you have it in there, because we worked in the session view and we worked in a loop format, you can just easily drag things over from left to right because they're already looped. So it's just, dragging them out to extend your arrangement. And so that's what I've done here. You see how that, so I'm going to just give you a little background on the arrangement, how I've gotten to where we're at now. And then we'll work on some drums, and then we'll wrap up this edition of the video series. So here we have that main arpeggiator. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag that all to the left. I'm going to give myself a 8-bar intro. And so we're introducing this part by doing some automation. So I'm going to double click this and we'll go back to that filter that we talked about in video 1. I'm just going to click on the filter frequency and you can see a red dot there. That just means you've automated that. And so if we open the drop down menu of the synth, you'll see the automation. So I tend to do this just to give a nice little intro. And then we'll go right back down so that it cuts down in the frequency and giving more room for the vocal. Up in the sky with the aeroplanes. Okay, now underneath that you see another arpeggiated line or synth line, and that is what I've done is just simply layer this sound. Because I love the tonality of that main synth, but I wanted something that just bring out the attack and just add some extra texture to it, and that'll cut through a little bit in the mix. So I simply just grab this whole part of the arrangement, this whole MIDI, all the MIDI information here, and hold down Option on your keyboard and just drag that anywhere, and that'll just make an exact duplicate copy of that. So it's keeping the same performance, but now triggering another instrument or another device. So I'll delete that there. So I just dragged and dropped that down here and just copied the same MIDI information. And what I did was I just loaded a analog. And this is a built-in proprietary synth that comes with Ableton Live. And it's just a simple 2 oscillator synth. And I've added an arpeggiator or one of the MIDI devices going at set to the chord trigger. So it's actually playing the chords and re-triggering them at every 8th note. There's the rest there. So let me turn the arpeggiator off and you'll see what I'm talking about. So here's the, and we turn the arpeggiator on, and that's what's going to give that pulsing effect that we achieved in the other synth. Now I'm using this layered with the main synth just to give more texture and, like I said, attack. So listen to it with the analog. Up in the sky with the arrow. So let me just solo the two of them. And this is without the analog. So you've got that main synth giving that nice warm bottom texture of that, and this would just be the nice clean top part. Now I'm also doing some automation here too. I've clicked the filter frequency of the analog, and I've got some different automation going on there, and this is just personal preference. I just wanted this, since it's already that higher octave layer, I didn't want that to come in right away, and we'll do a nice gradual build onto that. Okay. Now the next part would be some drum programming. So let's talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up with some more arrangement tips and tricks. So as you can see here, we have the drums grayed out, and that's because they're pretty much on standby. That means that I hit stop, or I've triggered something else in my session view. And so at any moment, if I want to just hear what the arrangement sounds like for the drums, we can just hit the back to the arrangement button here to enable all of them, or we can just individually click, I just want to hear this arrangement or this one. So let's just hit back to the arrangement button, and now we get to hear all the drums together in the sequence that they're arranged. Up in the sky with the aeroplane. So now we have some snaps going on, and I like just having snaps there because it'll keep the timing, it'll keep the beat there. It just gives that sense of rhythm, because a lot of the rhythm is coming from that arpeggiated synth, both the analog and the main one that we recorded in the first video. So there's movement going on, so I don't need to fill it up with a lot of drums and things like that. So let's just see the progression. We'll go from some snaps just on the 2 and 4. Up in the sky with the aeroplanes. And then we'll go ahead and transition to a pre. So this will just add some more build up and some more percussive, usually like maybe some more subdivisions. I just keep on coming. So now we have this clap build. If I give it away, there won't be nothing. Now, you've noticed this in the arrangement. We've got the kick separate, the snaps, the hi-hat, and the clap builds and things like that. They're all separated. But I don't start off that way. I don't typically would program a kick and then program a snare on top of that. Let me go ahead and walk you through that process really quickly, and then we'll get into the rest of the arrangement stuff. So let's head back to the session view really quick, and let's load up a drum rack. So here I have a drum rack loaded. This is the drum rack I started with, and this is just filled with some custom sounds that I have that I can trigger with my MIDI keyboard. All right, cool. And now let's just select a blank clip slot, and I'm gonna take it from the verse. Put it there. But let's just take it from the blank clip slot, and we'll double click, and this will give you an empty 1 bar clip. And we'll go ahead and just select that snap and leave it there, and play it, trigger that clip. Up in the sky with the aeroplanes. Okay. And I'll just duplicate that loop so that it will duplicate that 1 bar, turning it into 2 bar. And so. If you duplicate this, turns it into a 4 bar. And this is really beneficial so that you can focus in on maybe like a 1 or 2 bar drum pattern, and then you could just go ahead and duplicate it a couple of times and go in and make some minor nuances and changes to the pattern. And this is going to add some variation to your drums and giving it some new life as you go about arranging it. That way you're not stuck with just a 1 bar pattern being repeated throughout, for 5 minutes straight. So it's a cool little technique to implement. But now what we're going to do is just incorporate more elements and create a pattern over here. So let's grab this kick drum. And you can double click the kick drum, or you can simply record it by hand. So let's just go ahead and step sequence this. We'll trigger this again. And what I tend to do, and this is a good technique, I started out doing this, but maybe this will help you as well. I tend to hum along or just have an overall feel with the next hit or the next pattern or the next drum sound should be, and I'll just play it and then stop immediately where that sound should live. And right where that little leisure line or that play line ends up, that's where I know I should deposit one of those drum sounds there. So I'll give you an example. So we'll play, boom, right there. That's where I want the next hit. So draw that in, and you can kind of do this time and time again. You can see how I'm using this as a tool to just get familiar with where certain hits go, or just where I feel like something should be placed in my drum programming. Up in the sky with the air. This guy there. Maybe just have that open. Up in the sky with that back.
Up in the sky with the aeroplane.
And then one more hit here. There you go. And that'll be the pattern that we're going to go with for the drums. And so now, instead of just double clicking the hi-hats, we're going to use our pencil tool to draw them in. So let's go ahead and do that. And now you notice that the pencil tool draws according to the grid setting that you have. So we're going to use our command 1 and command 2 to expand the grid or decrease it. All right. So if I wanted every 8th note, we'll just leave it there. And you can also decrease the grid so that you can draw in smaller subdivisions. Okay, so this is just an overall example of how I've started off. I started off programming the drums like this, and then instead of keeping them grouped within the drum rack, I went and extracted the chains. I'll give you a little brief description of why I do that. I extract the chains so that it's just easy for me on the mixing side of things to just have everything visibly there, and as opposed to having to extract and detract the track. So let me show you what I mean. When you go to any drum rack that's loaded, that has more than one sound loaded on there, you'll notice that there on the top right hand corner you have a drop down menu. So you click that, and that extends the drum rack. You get to see all the individual hits, which is really cool. It's awesome because you can drag and drop effects, you can apply effects and all different types of stuff within each sound. But once I have this done, once I've created my pattern in one drum rack, I'll go ahead and focus on that one sound, such as this snap, and I'll right click on it, and I'm just going to choose extract chains. Now that's going to separate that one sound. It's going to create its own drum rack with that one sound attached to it, and once it's extracted, as you can see here, it also keeps the MIDI. So all we have is just the snap MIDI, no kick, no hi-hat, and it's living on its own. So if you were to trigger that, it's right there. So now I can have it visually there in the mix, and it's just easier than expanding everything and then retracting it, expanding. So I've done this, and so we take a look at my mix. Let me just head over here, eliminate the drum rack that we've imported, and I've got that already in place. We've got the 808 kick, the snare, the hi-hat, the claps, the clap builds, and so these are my drums here. And what I've done is just have them routed to an audio track, or created a drum bus, and then put the monitoring on the input. That way I can still put some compression and some effects processing on the drums, but I go ahead and just have a more visual, just a bird's eye view of what's going on in my mix. So we'll go ahead back to the arrangement and hit the back to arrangement button so we can hear everything together. You gotta see what I mean. So if I solo the drum bus, yeah, so soloing that drum bus will let you hear everything that's being routed to this track here. So just, now this is a personal workflow. I'm not saying that this is how you should do it. I'm not saying that you should do this throughout your process. This just really helps me in the long game here when I'm in the mixing stage and working completely in the box with Ableton Live. And it's just something I've just done from my old previous Pro Tools workflows. So it just makes it easier for me to work like this. So I'd encourage you to try it. Maybe this is something that could work out for you, and something that works for you. So now, really quick before we wrap up this video, I want to share with you a tip that's been really helpful for me in the songwriting process. And that is using specific items in a certain arrangement and saving them and incorporating them in new arrangements. So let me go and show you what I'm talking about. So throughout the song, I've placed some intricate effects, right? Some stuff that really help the transition from one section to the next, whether it's from the verse to the chorus and so on and so on. And so we can hear some of those effects here. So I'll go ahead and solo that. And they just help indicate new sections, whether it's introducing the chorus or the bridge or things like that, and also help transition from one to the next. So what I've done is I'll go ahead and, let's say, save effects 1, 2, and this track here, and I'll group them. And once I group that, the effects, it could be more than 3, and it all depends. And this is really where all the nitty-gritty stuff happens in my arrangement. I'll just spend some time and getting all these cool little transitions, and this could be a little cumbersome. But that's okay. This is where I spend the majority of my time after I've gotten all the melodies down, after I've gotten the most important element, and that's the songwriting aspect of it. When I've got the drop, I've got all that stuff laid out, I'll go and spend some time tweaking out the effects and things like that. But I'll go ahead and save that so that I can use it for another session. That way I have a skeleton or a real good guide for me to follow, and it just makes the writing process that much simpler. So go ahead and save this group, and we'll call it All Effects 3 or 2, or whatever you want to call it. And then once you've saved that group of the effects, just go ahead and click and drag that over to your browser window. So I've created a folder that I've labeled tools for things just like this. So I'm going to click and drag that into my browser window, and you'll notice there it is. You can rename it there if you want, and then I'll just go ahead and enter, and it's going to save all those effects. So let's go ahead and create a new session. Now this is going to be really beneficial so that when you start a new project, you'll have a guide to work with. So there's that All Effects 3 that we've created, and I'll just click and drag that into your blank session, and you're going to see that everything is timestamped. Everything shows up exactly where we left off from the last session. And the cool thing is it works according to the new tempo that you're working in now. Because you've warped it, everything kind of stays where they need to stay. But now this is a helpful guide, and you could do this not just with effects, but with drums or anything that might help you already have a skeleton or drawn out guide, and this will increase the workflow and just overall writing process and the arrangement process and make it that much easier, so you're not bogged down. So let's say you spent a lot of time tweaking and working on effects of one song. This is really beneficial for remixes. You can go ahead, save that, and always incorporate it, making some minor adjustments here and there, but you get the bulk of that work already done for you. So I hope this was beneficial. I hope this helped you out. Definitely stay tuned for the next video in this series. We're going to dive into a lot of the vocal stuff in video 3. So subscribe and click the link below so that you can download some of the stuff that I've got in this Ableton Live set. Take care.